Hello again, everyone. This is Joe Henches with Beyond the Chart, and this is technical analysis of the stock market today. Today is Saturday, December 27th. We're going to take a look at the, well, we only had one more day of trading from Wednesday because we're closed on Thursday, and we'll take a look at the weekly. So we're going to start off here with the Dow Industrials, look at the markets like we usually do. We're going to look at 5 ETFs today, and then we're going to look at Boeing, Caterpillar, and Chicago Bridge and Iron. Okay, so we're going to start off here with the Dow Industrials. It was up 23.5 points, and you can see that it really sold off in the afternoon. And so we've got these little doji bars, a couple of doji bars, very light volume. It's holiday trading, holiday volume. You know, it's so a lot of people, you know, look at and say, well, you know, you kind of need to discount what's going on this week and last week. Well, you know, that's true. I think things can be moved around. Things are light trading, that type of thing. But the fact that it's pushed up higher here on very low volume makes the move suspect to me. Okay, so we'll have to watch to see whether or not. I mean, you've got divergence in here on the RSI. The RSI is not confirming. DI plus is greater than DI minus on the Dow. So we'll just have to see what happens on here. All of the indices are showing a similar type scenario. All the markets, the S&P and the Dow at least, closed at new all-time highs, and I think everything did on Friday actually. The Nasdaq pushed higher, up 33.38 points, and but again we're getting divergence. This week's move is not really being solidly confirmed. New York Composite, again, continues to lag. Again, this is all equities. It continues to lag. It's not pushed to new highs at all. Russell 2000 finally has pushed to new highs. And so it's up here on this trend line. We'll have a better look at it here in a minute on the weekly, but it was up 8.4 for the day. But it is a new all-time closing high, but it continues to hug this trend line. Let's look at the weekly. You can see the Dow again on the weekly basis closing right up here on the high, but we've got solid divergence on the RSI at the moment anyway. So the move is not confirmed yet. And the S&P 500, it's a similar type scenario in here with this move, and DI minus above DI plus. So same scenarios playing out. The Nasdaq. Oh, the interesting thing I was going to point out, and I'm putting this in the just the brief introduction of the post too. Where the Nasdaq is trading right now, there have been only, with this close at 4806.86, there are only 3 weeks that closed higher than this close in its history, and those 3 weeks were in March of 2000. Okay, and when you go back to the Nasdaq daily, this daily close, there are only 12 days that closed higher in its history. And again, all 12 of those days were during those 3 weeks back in March of 2000. So we are approaching that rarefied air up there at the all-time highs on NASDAQ, which people wondered when would we ever see 5,000 again. And we're getting close. We'll see whether or not we continue to push or not. All right, that's it for the look at the indices real quick. Again, not a whole lot, additional movement and activity. Short-term trading index continues to just kind of stall out down here in the middle. Let me move my window over. I've got to look at this. The 10-day 1.01 is the 10-day moving average on it. The VIX, where's the VIX? It's probably right in front of me. I can never see it. The Chicago Bridge and Iron is throwing me off because here we go. CBOE, market volatility VIX. All right, this actually, it looks like on the RSI, it looks like it's rounding, like it may want to pop again, but sometimes that's deceiving. We'll just have to watch and see. We don't have moving averages crossed yet, but clearly it's continued to sell down in here. We'll see whether or not this is just a retracement move on the VIX, and it means we're going to get more selling kicking in and popping to the high side on the VIX. kind of looks that way, but again, it's not strong enough for a scenario to sit back and say, yeah, you ought to bet on that scenario. It's just something to be watching for. All right, VIX high-low. Now the high-low index is up in here. It's popped back up. Got the 10 crossing above 21 on this high-low, but it has not popped to, with this move here on the 23rd, did not pop higher than what we got back here on the 31st of October. So, look at this here, these peaks, and then look at this when you think about the market. Okay, so, here's where that peak was, and here's where the market is now, and it's the new high, the high-low is not confirming that move, at least not yet anyway. The put to call ratio, 10-day put to call ratio is 0.63 on the equity put to call. So we're continuing to monitor that. All right, let's take a look at some ETFs. Okay, the first ETF is the Semiconductors Etf. You can see again it opened at its high for the day, sold back off during the day. Again, slight movement, slight little rally here the last few days. What is this, 36 days? Actually counting this day is 7 days. A little rally back up in here. And I don't know, it's kind of looks like a little bit of a counter trend type rally. We'll see whether or not we continue to break back down or whether we push. And the next one we're going to take a look at is the Homebuilders ETF. Here it is. Homebuilders have pushed to higher highs here, and I think this might be a new closing high. I'm not sure if it's a new closing high. No, it's not for the year. And again, we had this peak back here in February, and it's been struggling for the rest of the year. But we're getting the 55 crossing above the 233. We've got all the moving averages kind of aligned, and it looks like, it's wanting to continue to push. Now we'll see whether or not the price accommodates that. Again, moving averages have a tendency to lag. XLF, Select Sector Financial. Okay, so here's the XLF, and again, it has, these last 3 days was on a little bit of a push up here, closing above this peak here on December 8th. So it is continuing to rally back. The next one we're going to take a look at is the energy, which we had not looked at previously, but because it's been so active, we're going to take a look at it. This looks like, in terms of wave count coming off this peak here in June 23rd, looks like we're working 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 within this third minor wave. So I think we are now in a fourth counter trend minor wave up. Again, these strong moves like this and like this just, smell like a third wave. Look like, smell like, act like a third wave. Okay, so and so that's why we've got it labeled in here, and I think this is probably pretty close to it. And we could always make the case that we got 5 waves down and have an A, B, C of some kind. So that is a possible other scenario, but I don't think that this is completed yet to the downside. I think we're doing a little bit of a counter trend in here, and we may have one more push to the downside at least. So the other one we're going to take a look at is the high yield. Here it is. And the high yield, we talked about this bounce back that we had, and then we got a big kind of not a big reversal day, but a reversal day on Friday. So higher high and lower low for the day, and then closing down and engulfing the previous, actually 1-2 days or so. So this is going to be interesting to see if we get some follow through the downside, that it wants to make another move to the downside. That would kind of coincide with, it seems like the sell-off in energy has been tied into this, and people have talked about this. They're trying to say, well, how come this hasn't taken the market down? This is high yield, should be risk off. Well, they talk a lot about that the high yield issues are tied to the energy sector, and that it could be all related some way, somehow. Well, we'll see. All right, let's take a look at 3 stocks here: Boeing, CAT, and Chicago Bridge and Okay, here's Boeing. Boeing has been bouncing back, bouncing all around, actually. You know, it's gotten this big bounce back here. Honestly, when I look at what it's been doing, it's not real clear to me. It looks like some kind of corrective action going sideways, and it's doing it after, you know, a pretty big, healthy move all the way from, you know, June 2012. Big, huge move to the upside, and we're now consolidating to the basically sideways. And you know, it's going to be, you know, it keeps stretching out. It's hard to tell when this is really in breakout mode or not. I'm not really seeing anything. I'm seeing what looks like three waves in here. You know, three waves here, three waves here. We get this kind of little move in here, kind of like the way we had this move here. So I'm not quite sure what's going on with Boeing, and as you get into these kind of corrective modes like this, other than you're getting some decent, healthy little swings that you know, you may try to play, but right now I don't quite see anything. Next one we'll take a look at is Caterpillar. And Cat's doing a similar type thing, although not as dramatically sideways as Boeing is. But again, these swings, you can see the high price for Caterpillar was July 16th. Cat looks to me like right now we've just done a counter trend move. We've got lower highs, lower lows. We continue to get this lower low. Cat's selling off. They're being impacted because of the energy and the oil exploration and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, these guys sell these huge off-highway trucks up into the oil pits. I mean, the trucks are so big that they have to ship them in pieces and assemble them up in Canada. And you know, that type of activity, mining, pipe layers, all that good stuff, and construction related naturally. So right now this looks like a counter trend type move in here, and you've got the 21 below the 55, and it's in a hard down. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get a little bit of a rollover here and we retest to the downside. Be watching for that on Cat. Chicago Bridge and Iron. Chicago Bridge and I don't know a lot about what these guys do. I think they're in the construction industry naturally, and but I got a feeling that based on what they're doing, you know, the way the stock's acting, and because of the oil industry, they may be tied even closer to the oil industry than Cat. But anyway, for whatever reason, the stock is selling off, and it has been trending down pretty solidly. You can see that the long-term trend now is 55s below the 233. It is to the downside. And so we're continuing to get these lower lows, lower highs, and it is also doing a counter trend type move in here. The ADX is at 38, so pretty strong indication of downtrend in here. Again, no reason to be jumping in and buying this as far as I'm concerned, unless you feel like, you know, you've got a really, really long-term perspective and you're trying to figure out that this is a good buying area. But you can see this has made some big moves in the past, got really impacted by the whole 2008 fiasco. And of course that happened with the oil industry too. So we'll see if this starts to get any kind of buying come in here or not. One last look at this is on a RSI basis. Here's the RSI. It got really deeply oversold. I mean, look at this. It's down 13, and here is down around 12, actually 11.96. So extremely, extremely oversold. But, you know, a lot of times that's what you get when you're in a severe downtrend. And yeah, we got the rally off of that, but it was almost like a counter trend rally that came up, okay, up into here. And between here and here, looking for divergence, I don't know. I mean, it's possible, but right now I think I'd be looking for a potential setup that would at least come back down and retest this low, similar to what I think I'm looking for on Cat. So, all right, that's it for today. We covered a lot: Boeing, Cat, Chicago Bridge and Iron, and we looked at the 5 ETFs. Looked at the markets, and we'll be back. Well, I'm going to check in on trade ideas for tomorrow. We'll see. We'll review what we've been in and look to see if there's anything for the coming week. Again, it's going to be a holiday shortened week next week. All right, this has been Joe for Beyond the Chart. Everyone have a great weekend.